Hello and welcome to the Kubi Springer Show, sponsored by Rapid Cargo, the show that enables you to be your brand. Then we will view your elevator pitch online, and the best one chosen each week is heartless. Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman?
The only problem I have is with people making silly and grave mistakes, especially in marriage.
You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
A jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects.
Plenty time is over. Get many of progress.
If my husband comes and say, make I no work, I go quickly fine.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Right, thanks for assisting with us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television, AIT. If you're just tuning in, well, you are right on time for the discussion segment of Focus Nigeria. It's really a pleasure to be with you today. It's about 3 weeks since the House committee that probed the fuel subsidy regime submitted its report to the entire House. Mixed reactions have since been trailing the content of the report, as well as the comments or the actions from the executive arm of government. You will recall that President Goodluck Jonathan initially reacted to the report, saying any person found wanting will be prosecuted irrespective of his or her standing in the society. The president's comments gladdened the hearts of most Nigerians, judging by the way most probes in the past had ended up. Someone describes it as a mortuary of probes. But that glimmer of hope may be dimmed now because of comments and actions, or should I say, the inactions of those who should be acting on this very important report. First, it was the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mohammed Adoke, who claimed that the President is yet to receive the report and as such cannot act on it. Mohammed Adoke also dismissed the report of the House as a mere fact-finding exercise which does not provide the basis for prosecution. He concluded that further investigation will be required before prosecution can commence. On this part, the political advisor to President Goodluck Jonathan described the outcome of the probe as lacking credibility, whatever that means. These statements may just indicate one thing, and that is a push to delay and perhaps deny justice by making the nation drift into a state of forgetfulness, thereby relegating the report to the mortuary of probes, as has been described. The recent move by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to interrogate some of the indicted CEOs of the oil importing firms, as reported by some newspapers yesterday, may also amount to nothing. Because, according to the acting head of media and publicity of the Anti-Graft Agency, the investigation by the EFCC is not a reaction to the probe conducted by the House of Representatives. So, does this imply that the Commission is also trying to avoid the report of the House Ad hoc Committee? The FCC and the Attorney General of the Federation may wish to note that inaction on this report that has revealed perhaps the biggest corruption scandal in Nigeria's history may adversely affect the President's reformist credentials and further alienate his government from the majority of Nigerians. Already, civil society groups like the Save Nigeria Group, the Ed Catalyst, the Joint Action Group, and a host of others are waiting to excel. Well, we shall speak more on this seeming executive inaction towards the prosecution of those enacted by the subsidy probe report later on in our discussion segment. For now, let's just breeze through some of the happenings in the last 24 hours. Let's start with this very important one. It's a kind of breaking news, really. And it's a sad one at that. Former president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NSC, Comrade Pascal Bafiao, is dead. The former NSC president died in the early hours of this morning after he suffered a heart attack in his house last night. Sources close to the family said Comrade Pascal Bafiao was watching TV last night when he suddenly hurt his chest and started coughing uncontrollably. He was rushed to the hospital where he died shortly after. Well, from here we say, may his soul rest in peace, and our hearts also go out to the families of the late comrades Pascal Bafiao. Well, let's move to something else now. The late fella Anikulapo Kuti of blessed memory, in one of his songs, sang about government magic, highlighting the extent to which corruption had become endemic in government and in the polity. That was a long time ago, but to date, I tell you, corruption remains part of us. It's an issue in the country. It dominates the polity. You will recall that the National Judicial Council, NJC, resolved last Thursday to reinstate Justice Ayo Salami, 9 months after he was suspended in a very controversial circumstances. The reinstatement followed the recommendations of a panel headed by Justice Aluma Mukhtar. But reports have it that the NJC's letter to President Jonathan on the matter is missing. Well, sources at the presidency are insisting that Mr. President is yet to receive the letter, even when the agency insists that the letter has been dispatched. So, the conclusion here is that the letter is missing in transit. This confusion comes amid alleged pressure by some top members of the People's Democratic Party on President Jonathan, asking him not to reinstate Justice Salami as the President of the Court of Appeal, as has been directed by the agency. The reasons of these PDP members for the pressure to stay action derives from the suits in court over Justice Salami's suspension last year, and some sundry issues concerning the judgments of two different panels composed by Justice Salami, which ended the reign of the PDP in the Southwest. Now, save for the allegations about telephone calls between Justice Salami and some people linked to the ACN, and some peripheral relationship between the Court of Appeal as an institution and the Lagos State government when Asiwaju Bola Tinubu was governor of Lagos State. The PDP hawks in the Southwest, talking about former governor of Ekiti State, Segun Oni, former governor of Osun State, Olagunsoye Oyinlola, whose tenures were ended by panels composed by Justice Salami in his position as President of the Court of Appeal. And of course, Senator Iyola Obisori, I really don't understand his own grounds in all of this. All of them have provided no concrete proof of any misdeed by Justice Ayo Salami, whom they want crucified at all costs. It is instructive that the Court of Appeal, before Salami's headship, had nullified many governorship elections in Kogi, in Bayelsa, in Adamawa, in Sokoto State, in Delta, even in Cross River State. Yet, heavens did not fall. Indeed, the Court of Appeal panel that nullified the election of Governor Olusegun Agagu in Ondo State and that of Professor Osareme Osubo in Edo State were presided over by the then President of the Court, Justice Umar Abdullahi. Yet, heavens did not fall. and nobody alleged that that panel headed by him did anything wrong, beyond applying the law to the facts of the cases that were brought before that panel. The same thing that happened in Shagoni and Oyinlola's cases, which happened during the headship of Ayo Salami. But here, really, the worry is about the reluctance of President Jonathan to act speedily on the agency's request to reinstate Salami. The same way, the same speed with which he removed him where the first mistake was made. Well, here, let's just conclude that all eyes are on Mr. President, and history records every act which ultimately will form his testimonial at the end of his tenure or at the end of the day. Okay, we've said so much this morning. Let's apply the brakes here and get prepared for our discussions at this stage.
We want a good Nigeria.
People that are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Discussions are started now. You already. We are back to the first subsidy probe this morning. I'm sure you are gradually forgetting about that report. If they ask you what was contained in that report now, chances are that you may not even remember. All the disclosures and all of that. But let me get back that issue to the forefront of discussions now. Let me quickly introduce my guest this morning. Mr. Chris Uwodo is joining me for discussions this Wednesday morning. Mr. Uwodo is a consultant. He's also a public affairs analyst. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Barrister Modibo Bakari is also joining us. It's been a long while on this program. Barrister Bakari, good to see you.
Good morning.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, like I said, Chris, we're gradually forgetting about these reports. It's part of the monumental disclosures. It's part of the earth-shaking revelations. I'm sure most Nigerians have lost interest in this by now. If that is the situation, then of course everything is working according to pattern. That's the usual pattern. Disclosures, reports are submitted. Even when such panels are set up by the government, by the executive, after some time everybody forgets. The report gathers dust wherever it is dumped.
Yes.
We are used to that pattern. Yes. But is this a report that should follow that same pattern?
Not at all. Not at all. I would take issue with the Attorney General's characterization of the report as a mere fact-finding exercise. This is not, we are not talking about wild accusations that people are throwing around. This is a branch of the federal government indicting an arm of government, elected representatives of the people, indicting officials across the entire spectrum of government, federal agencies, private sector concerns. It is not something that should be taken lightly. In other countries, governments have fallen for less. So it is a serious issue, and it should be dealt with seriously, with the seriousness that it deserves.
Master Bakri, we are gradually forgetting this report. Is no longer dominating the front border of public discourse, if you ask me. For what we are doing now, I can imagine what some people will be saying. Oh, that issue is no longer relevant. And would that be correct? Here we are talking about, and collectively now, we are talking of trillions of naira lost. We are talking of money that should have translated into bettering the lives of Nigerians. Go around Nigeria, you can't see much of the evidence of our oil wealth. This is how we lose the money to wrong hands.
Yes, before I start in, you have to look at our constitutional democracy. You see, the enshrinement of the doctrine of separation of power is part of the constitution of this country, more particularly as provided in section 4, 5, and 6 of the 1999 constitution as amended. Insofar as each arm of government has a constitutional responsibility to carry out its functions in accordance with the provisions of the constitution without subordinating itself to the other arm, because each of the arms is performing a supplemental role, not subordinative role to the other. That is the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Okay. So if it will be a novelty in any democratic setup, if a legislative arm, under the provision of the constitution that sets it, will carry out its statutory functions, and then at the end of the day, the other arm of the government will find it difficult, or will find it maybe whether unamenable or in one way or the other impracticable to implement or to carry out forward or further implementation of the particular report. So I look at the investigation because I have so many comments as description as to the nature of the findings, whatever the nature of the findings. The only lacuna in the constitution, which also bogs down to the separation of powers, is after investigation by the legislature, as enshrined in section 89, 88, and 89 of the constitution. So if the legislature cannot carry out its function and complement and finalize its findings, so there is no provision in the constitution as to the powers of the legislature to implement. The implementation aspect of that report behoves and is on the executive arm, exercising its powers under section 5 of the same constitution. Okay. So the whole now responsibility lies on the arm of the executive, which are also by implication are representatives of the Nigerian populace as per the outcome of the democratically conducted election in this country. So it is not advisable, I can even put that word, to the executive arm to at least exercise any delay in implementation of that report, whether by way of punitive measures at their own level administratively, or if they so want, they can further submit the report to the judicial arm of government for further. That is where the issue of further investigation may come in, because judiciary will not only tie, at least restricted to the report only, it has to go beyond that.
Okay, but when you talk, Chris, when you talk of the government of the day, yes, it encompasses both the executive and the legislature. So here we are talking of one government. Yes. Why will it be that one arm of a government is moving in a particular direction, the other arm of government is moving in the opposite direction? What does that say about the government? Particularly when you also note the fact that this is more or less like a one-party dominated government. Yes. You know, a party has dominance in the executive and in the legislature.
Yes, yes, thank you.
And it's difficult to seek the same view on an issue that touches every Nigerian.
It's a reflection of the dynamics of our politics, of our current political reality. You're absolutely right. It is interesting that one party dominates both the executive and the legislature. It is those party stalwarts in the House of Representatives that spearheaded this investigation and generated this indictment. However, I want you to cast your mind back. Remember, we've been having a long-running conversation about corruption. 2 years ago and then last year, the dominant theme of that conversation was the proportionate rewards of political office, the high remunerations of political office holders, with particular reference to the National Assembly. And when the fuel subsidy issue came up early this year, late last year, early this year, many people felt that the National Assembly symbolized the culture of extravagance, of waste, of corruption that defines this republic so far. So I believe that this is both a smart political move by elements within the National Assembly to deflect attention somewhat, to show that the National Assembly does not monopolize graft in this country. And to that extent, I see that the executive is also reluctant to implement this report because of the political risk to elements within its own branch. So in this instance...
But this particular issue,
yes,
we can trace the movement back to the people, actually.
Yes.
It could be a fallout of the nationwide protests that crippled this nation for days.
Absolutely.
And it was in response to that the parliament decided to key to all of that.
Absolutely.
And the product is the probe.
Yes, absolutely. You see, this country is moving from a phase where citizens fear their governments to a phase where governments fear the citizens. We are not there yet, obviously. But like you rightly pointed out, the probe itself, this investigation, came about because of the rage, the expression of popular rage that swept this country in January of this year. And so to that extent, you will find that we are in a position now where the executive is reluctant to implement the findings, to go further and investigate, because certainly a corruption of this magnitude, such as the report has highlighted, it touches on several, at the very high levels of our government. And I feel that people are being protected, political careers are being protected, are being preserved, and that is why you are not seeing any movement so far. This is purely political.
Isn't that again curious if we have a government that is pushing reform, that is pushing transformation?
Yes. Well, yes.
And the government that keeps mouthing it that it will deal decisively with corruption.
Well,
and here you have cases of corruption exposed.
Yes.
And yet the same government is reluctant to pursue the leads.
Well, thus far, those pronouncements remain at the level of rhetoric. We cannot. I see nothing to persuade, to indicate to me that there's any willingness on the part of government to go beyond rhetoric. You have to understand that this is a political culture that depends on patronage, control of oil rent, distribution of patronage, and even what we see with the results, the findings of this committee are exactly a reflection of that culture. Distribution of patronage under the umbrella of subsidy payments, fictitious over-invoicing, and that sort of thing. So, like I said again, this is politics. This is about political reality, not so much the legal. What should be done is straightforward. If the federal government wants to retain the confidence of the citizens in this administration, it should prosecute those indicted to the fullest extent of the law. No golden parachutes, no soft landings. But political realities will dictate otherwise.
Okay. Master Bakri, what will make of the signals coming from the executive? One, apart from you already know what the statement of the Attorney General is. In another climb, we know what the position of the Attorney General will be.
Yes.
The Attorney General in some other class is the chief prosecutor and doesn't wait for anybody. Once he sees or he hears of any act of corruption or he sees any evidence of corruption, he pursues it because he's the Attorney General and chief prosecutor on behalf of the citizens. I'm sure you know what has come out of the office of the Attorney General. First, to describe the report as a mere fact-finding exercise which is not probably binding on the executive. And then, of course, even key aides of the president who said that the president has not received the report. A report that I'm sure you have the report. I can't be really sure, really.
Yes,
but we are talking of a report that even at the tap of a finger, you can get anywhere.
Yes. If it's a public document, it's no more
a public document.
Yes.
Must an executive arm of government wait for the Speaker of the House to probably carry a binded copy and come and submit it to the executive before you then agree that you have a copy of the report?
Well, in the protocol sense of it, the executive may wait, but there is a limit to a waiting game of such a nature. This is not a type of a report that will require a white paper. It's a type of a report that will require implementation immediately by way of prosecution, arraignment and prosecution by the executive. And it depends on which authority that is prosecuting. Is it the office of the Attorney General under the Director of Public Prosecution, or is even the Nigerian police under anti-fraud unit is empowered under the Police Act to prosecute such type of offences, because we had this one in existence before even the coming into the present day EFCC. And is it also the EFCC that is going to prosecute? But I want to believe the review they will be having in mind is not conducting further investigation in addition to what has been done under Section 89 of the 1999 Constitution, which also had public hearings, evidences, documents were presented, evidence and testimonies were put under oath in accordance with the provision of that section. So what is required maybe is the review to streamline the pieces of evidence that you need to present before them. It's not everything that you present before, because the requirement of proof in a criminal matter under our Evidence Act, particularly Section 35, is beyond reasonable doubt. And the standard required of a reasonable doubt is also a very hard test. Very hard hurdle to cross in law.
You are distinguishing between what the House did now and the investigation that the attorneys are talking about?
What I'm saying, that if the further investigation is within the context of the review.
Shouldn't it be with a view to knowing what specific rules were breached, what specific laws were breached, and what charges to draw up from there?
Yes, and you now streamline.
Because investigation by security agencies too are also fact-finding.
They are fact-finding.
Exactly.
But when you are presenting
that you establish that...
yes, I'm coming. The experience we have with regards to Chief James Ibori, I think he's still Chief Ibori, formerly of Delta State
former governor.
Yes, and the one that we recently have of Chief Erastus Akimbola of Intercontinental Bank. You start looking at EFCC also is being advised to at least do a very thorough job when they are presenting cases for prosecution, because external lawyers will act when they are prosecuting in court on the basis of the information and documents. More particularly, most of these matters are not strict liability offenses. They are documentary evidences that you have to present before the court, and the court will only be sitting and waiting for litigants or parties to present their cases and evidence. Court cannot go out to scout for evidence. So the whole thing will now become an exercise in futility, and it will become a speculative approach. So the court cannot agree on that. That's why a lot of allegations are against the judges. But look at the quality of evidence that are always being produced before our courts in their district. And a lot of overtures have been, or advice have been made to the government to establish special courts for such type, because of the levels that we have accepted now. Corruption is part of our governance. We have also accepted that this society is engulfed in corruption in higher places. So because of that, a lot of calls have been made to the government to establish special courts to assist, to supplement the works of the existing courts. If you look at the volume of cases before our present courts, you look at the level of training our judges receive based on the nature of their functions that they will not have even time to review even their personal activities. Most of the judges, we know what they are facing. So there is nothing wrong in government that is even setting up moribund agencies that have even duplicating functions without even work. Some of them, since their establishment and appointments, as my friend is saying, political patronage, and some of them, they don't even have relevance. So instead of that, you have to empower judiciary. And no matter how you empower judiciary, there's a limit as to the human resources you can put in there. You can't have one judge sitting on 24 cases on his daily list to listen to all cases, evaluate all the evidences, listen to all this, and then deliver sound judgments. Yeah. He is a human being. It's an individual. Listening to about sometimes 15, 20 lawyers addressing him on daily basis in court and canvassing so many authorities of judicial nature. So this type of things will require government proactive measures to set up special courts, at least to tackle all these issues instantly without waiting for before whatever you are reviewing to present before the court has to pass so many stages to be sure of what you are doing. Or end, because you are going to also face another tough opposition from the defense counsel of the same accused person exercising their right under section 36 subsection 5. They are presumed to be innocent until contrary is proved. How do you prove that contrary without evidence? How do you evaluate evidence when you are not very much articulate and cautious? These are the issues that we have to look at.
Okay. All right. But what it really here is the fact that we are forgetting, gradually we are forgetting this report. We are forgetting that not too long ago, the Senate made a similar finding that has to do with the privatization scheme. How the privatization scheme was carried out under the previous regimes. Companies were undervalued. They were sold in very questionable circumstances. BDs were not so strictly followed and all of that. And this report is following the same pattern. Now, the worry really here is if this report is allowed to go the way of reports before it, what would be the implication for the polity? Particularly here we are talking about a very sensitive sector, the oil sector. Yes. Subsidy up to now.
Yes. First of all, I think that when you're speaking of law and justice within the context of a young democracy like ours, but
Nigeria is beautiful, so sorry about that. It does happen with the live program. Okay, Chris?
Yes, I was saying that when you speak of issues of law and justice in a young democracy, such as ours, particularly one that has had a long history of military rule, the energy, the impetus for establishing law, for implementing justice, flows from the executive for various reasons, but the one important one for us right now is because throughout those times the executive remains, in any dispensation, whether democratic or dictatorial, the executive remains the main repository of power, the main repository of sovereignty. And I say that just to say that in this instance, as in other instances, the issue is always political will. Is there political will, sufficient political will to pursue investigations and indictments, to pursue prosecution to the fullest extent of the law? And again, like you've pointed out, this is not, I find this situation a bit curious, because it is such that there was really no need to wait for this report itself. There have been several other reports, there have been several other reasons for which the federal government should have initiated investigation, prosecution, in fact, of elements within the oil industry, within the overseeing agencies in the federal government responsible for that sector. Remember that in December of last year, the Senate carried out its own investigations, released its own findings, where it disclosed shell companies that were involved in the fuel subsidy arrangement. It was very scandalous as well. That was reason enough to begin to look into this entire tangle and ticket of corruption. Remember as well that Transparency International's report last year listed NNPC as one of the 8 most corrupt oil and gas concerns in the world. There is sufficient reason even before this time. That is why I say that the issue comes down to political will, and it does not seem to me that there is sufficient political will at this moment to drive prosecution. With regard to your question, what will be the consequences? I'll have to say that there will continue to be a decline in confidence of the citizenry. Popular confidence in this government will continue to decline, and you're going to continue to see episodes of protest and possibly unrest. Remember as well that the economy
that's one likely implication.
Yes, that is a likely implication. The economy is not doing well. We are in a recession, even though it seems that we are always in a recession, but we are in a recession. The economy is not doing well. Youth unemployment is very high. These are all indices. And when we see dramas like this on national television, investigations carried out, people exposed, people indicted, and we see the government folding its hands or pretending that nothing has happened, it does not give one great cause for confidence.
Okay, we try to make the program a little bit interactive this morning. 094625203 is the number to the studio. If you want to be part of the program, please be very brief about it. No name calling, please. We're looking at the likely implication of government not acting on the first subsidy report. That's essentially what we would like your comment to center on. Yes, Barrister Bakre, we are looking at the likely implications now if we don't act on this report. What the implication? I was reading one of the papers yesterday, and this report is credited to the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, when she said that so far this year, another sum of 451 billion naira has been paid this year as backlog of subsidy claims for 2011. In other words, we don't even know yet how much was actually paid as subsidy for last year. If we are still talking about this year alone, we have paid about 450 billion naira as part of the backlog for last year. Last year, the committee established that all that was paid in subsidy was about 1.5 trillion naira. Yes. Whereas, as an item of the budget for 2011, all that was appropriated, in other words, all that was approved and sanctioned legally and constitutionally for spending was just 240 billion. Those are issues again.
It's quite worrisome. But I'm only maybe having a comfort of the recent statement created by one of the ministers.
Okay. May I just interrupt you a little bit, please? We have somebody already on the line. It's calling all the way from UK. Olufemi is joining us from the United Kingdom. Femi, good morning. Femi, good morning. Femi, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, are you still there?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Please, the contribution I have this morning is the fact that the executive, the presidency is not pretending as if nothing is happening. What I believe is by the statement I've had so far, they have decided to just minimize the report or minimize the position of the House of Assembly, and that is very pathetic. The EFCC, we want to rely upon, they are waiting for a harmonized version of the report, which is a signal that nothing is going to happen. And then the political party, leaders, that I don't think that they are doing something really constructive, because as far as I'm concerned, the vast majority of Nigeria, more than 90%, they are oblivious of the implications of what is going on. They don't even know what is going on in the program I'm working now. They are not saying it. They don't know what is going on. They are not informed. They don't know how it affects them directly or indirectly. That is how helpless the situation in Nigeria is. So I don't know. I hope people like Buhari will be making educative statements, not talking as authoritarian, but talking as an authority, making people to understand what the government is doing. Because here in the UK, the government is always on its toes. It's always utilized, always being checked by the opposition. There's no opposition like that in Nigeria. So I hope the political parties that are not in government will wake up to that responsibility. They have responsibility for the citizens.
There are some critical issues there. Well, that's part of the issues we also need to get to. That's what we should be doing. Roles for different people. We talked about the people, they talked about the opposition. We don't have the opposition, Nigeria. Maybe you should also rope that into your response.
We don't have opposition in Nigeria.
Don't say so.
Yes. In fact, there is no opposition. If you look at the opposition parties too, the states where they are controlling, what happens in those states is even worse sometimes than what is even happening in the ruling party, that is the PDP state. So I am not holding brief for any political party, but even at the legislative arm of government, if you look at the legislators, the way they all behave, they have common interests. The governors have common interests. We've seen that one during the removal of subsidy saga. All the governors team up, both from the opposition, both the other parties and the PD. They all had common ground. And when the government decided to establish sovereign funds to save this money in sovereign fund, they all also team up to go to Supreme Court and challenge it. So they all have what is a class struggle in Nigeria. There is no difference between between a political party in state A and another party in state B. So it's just a common interest. And the only thing is that what we are praying is that let that common interest be for the betterment of the generality of Nigeria, or at least for the enjoyment of the larger group of society, at least majority will have the benefit. But if that common interest now translates into confinement into their own narrow personal interests, so it will be an unfortunate. And what we have been seeing, I'm not part of the government, but I receive feelers for what is happening in government. What we are seeing is in fact, it is a very, very fundamental cause for everybody to be worried in Nigeria, except if you belong to the same. Exactly. Yes.
Okay. The other issue,
in Arab countries, is that how things started?
We've seen countries where it is just a minimal increase in the cost of bread.
Exactly, 2 kobo in Spain, in Tunisia in 1982. We see what happened.
Okay. The other issue, I also like you to comment on it, which is the implication of spending money unappropriated. I'd like you to comment on that.
That one is outright crime.
Yeah.
It's outright crime. It's outright contravention of the 1999 Constitution.
Okay. What would be the implication of that? Let me quickly take this call. Hafiz.
That one is also...
I'll get that. Let me just take this call. Hafiz is joining us from Abuja here. Hafiz, good morning.
Good morning.
All right.
Yeah, I think my little contribution is that if things continue to go this way, the heroes of the labor of our heroes past may just be in vain. It is left for the president to decide who he really wants to serve. Is it the people or the cabals in government, those who have already made it, who are actually dictating the tune now, as we can all see. So it is left for him, because if things continue this way, there will be breakdown of law and order, and then we'll be thinking a different story because we never can tell. If things continue this way, we don't know what will happen tomorrow. And most of those in power are not really putting this into consideration. So I want to appeal to the government to do the right thing, to make the judiciary work and to implement this to implement this subsidy probe report.
All right.
I think this is very important for our collective growth and development.
All right. Thank you very much, Hafiz. Yes.
Yeah, we are talking about appropriation without...
If the parliament appropriated 240 billion naira to be spent on an item, and we have ended up spending almost 2 trillion naira now.
And without also...
And there's no indication that this will still not happen again, or that it's still not happening now.
So it also calls on the part of the legislative arm of government to investigate this and confirm and submit also a report on that for further prosecution of the people who are involved. Because the fact that an act has been done and it has been condoned does not make it to be legal. So if there is illegality committed, especially the outright illegalities that are brazenly clear, so automatically it calls for invocation of the powers of legislature to still exercise not only their oversight functions but also investigative functions. Because part of the purposes of Section 989, subsection 2B of 1999 Constitution is to expose corruption in public places as to the management, mismanagement of public funds and misadministration of public funds. So now still the legislature has to do its work as enshrined under Section 5 or under Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution. So they have to have undoing. The fact that their report is being handled in one way or the other in some quarters on a particular issue will not make them to at least soft pedal and reluctantly at least to give way or to recoil into inactivity.
Because that section that you just read makes no exception. It didn't say that the NNPC has the right to spend money that has not been appropriated by Parliament. It didn't say that the Central Bank has the right to spend money or release money that has not been appropriated by government. They are part of
the executive.
Yeah.
They are part of the executive. That is why they are controlling public funds under the Act establishing them. But all the sections under those acts are subordinate to the sections of the Constitution, considering Section 1, subsection 3, as to the primacy of the Constitution.
Okay. Chris, before I come to you now, let me just quickly take Collins. Collins is calling also. Okay, Collins is gone off the line, so sorry about that. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Collins. Yeah, Chris, the worry here again has to do with the ease with which some executive agencies can spend money without recourse to the process outlined by law. And if you look at the way this subsidy thing is managed, there's no indication that this will still not continue or has not been institutionalized to what it will be, which is that if you are the oil importer, you import, even if you import 10 liters, you can claim to government that you have imported 20. You make your claim based on that, you are paid. It is after you are paid that some other persons are now called upon to come and verify your claim. Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that like putting the cart before the horse? But before you answer, I'm told that, is it that Collins is back on the line also? Not quite, okay.
Well, it's outrageous. Again, we are looking at a culture. These are not isolated incidents. We are looking at, this is a culture. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, he called it a culture. First of all, he spoke of a culture of secrecy in terms of the fact that the financial, the fiscal outline of our industries, of governance as a whole, public funds, is so opaque. You never quite know what is going on, what is allocated where, what is actually spent. It is so opaque.
In a government that is described as government of the people,
yes,
by the people, and for the people.
That is clearly a contradiction. The National Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative in 2010 disclosed that we don't even know how much. We have no mechanisms. The federal government has no mechanisms for measuring oil production at the wellheads. It has no mechanism for establishing how much is lost or diverted between the wellheads and export depots.
Okay,
so,
Chris, I hate to interrupt you,
no
but at the same time, I also don't want us to keep this caller waiting endlessly. Azubike is on the line from Lagos. Azubike, good morning. 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 Azu, are you there? Azu, are you there? Okay.
Yeah. So when we look at extra budgetary expenditure, that is part of that whole culture. It's a culture of impunity. That's part of that whole culture. At the very least, there should be some form of censor. Now, this is where the legislature has to push the envelope. They have to force the issue. When monies are appropriated and then we discover that expenditure was in excess, well beyond what was appropriated, that is criminal. And there should be some censor, and that is again grounds for prosecution. Certainly somebody should pay for that. You don't have to do perennial investigation. This is very clear. If money was appropriated and a particular agency spent beyond that amount, then we have to find out what agency it was, through what channels were those monies, funneled into the agency. And it is when you begin to find the supply chains of graft and you dismantle them by prosecuting. You cannot dismantle them by preaching at them. This is not about sermonizing. People have to pay for their crimes. Somebody has to be jailed. Somebody has to be fired. So that is how these things are. That is how this thing will be implemented. So again, I come back to the issue of political will. If the important people in government, if the principals decide that this is how we want to run government, it will be run that way. Our system has challenges. We have capacity problems, but the will of the principal is supreme, because this is a presidential system too, and it's a very powerful one. It's a particularly powerful one. So the will of the principal is supreme. If it is decided that we want to run the government in a particular way, no more impunity, due process, and all those things, then that will be the way it will be.
Okay. Bakri, another issue again is flowing from the report of the committee. We now know for sure that the refining capacity locally can take care of local consumption. If the NNPC has capacity through our refineries to refine at least 445,000 barrels of crude oil a day, and that from that you can actually get over 31 million liters of petrol that we consume every day. Of what need then is importation. In which case, you don't need to import, you don't need to pay subsidy to any oil company. Yes. But we are losing that. Conveniently, we are forgetting that.
The problem of this started when the government deliberately at least allowed all our refineries, existing refineries, both Port Harcourt. We had two refineries in Port Harcourt, the old and the new refineries in the Okirka. We have the refinery in Wari. We have in Kaduna. So all these refineries were allowed to go into decay gradually.
Yeah, but even at now, even at their present form, the refining capacity is there. They can refine at least 450,000 barrels of crude per day.
I'm not sure
collectively.
I'm not sure.
That's part of the finding of the committee.
You see, the refineries in Nigeria reached a level that
want a good Nigeria.
People that are benefiting are the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Still with Morocco. Surely. Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
Exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kakaki,
the African voice.
What has been failing before was that Nigerians became so docile. They didn't ask questions. They don't show interest on issues that are really burning their fingers and even affecting them, on the cancer that is eating the nation.
We have a government that is accomplishing so little because it is attempting to do so much.
It is absolutely important that the state of our criminal justice system is made an agenda item.
If you look at Section 285 of the Constitution, it says you must file your petition within 21 days from the date of the result of the election was announced.
Would you do it?
Family time. A thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
Your daughter, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid.
Oh, well.
I will do everything. I
don't like anything that has to do with jazz. I don't like
Come, you be like say hungry, never why are you rich, Abby?
You know nothing about football, so there's no point asking.
Organize your cup and not do your body. This one not the couple.
Oh, well, see, baby, it's not my money,
Between three nurses and a doctor, Find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing in such a noble profession where so much courtesy is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the natural has a pilot just gone into...
Hello and welcome to the Kubi Springer Show, sponsored by Rapid Cargo, the show that enables you to be your brand. Then we will view your elevator pitch online, and the best one chosen each week is shortlisted to win £100 every month.
Motivating.
Let's find one person.
I would like to.
Entertaining. Inspiring.
Honestly, you look like you're really enjoying it. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I write, and I write poetry. I used to write poetry.
And sensational.
Why do men cheat?
Celebrities and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Moments with Mo. Inspiring Africa.
Can't we have a little time together just like your sister and her boyfriend did?
Labake, you just barged in on a business discussion.
No, Raymond, it's okay by me. No, in all aspects of life, preference is always given to the lady, and for such a dashing, young, beautiful lady, it's okay by me. Raymond, it's okay by me. It's okay by me.
Bless yourself, sir. Did you hear that, Raymond?
Stop harassing me, Labake. Can't you see I'm in the midst of a profitable discussion?
Time out with TA. It's also a party.
Look, see, I know they got no longer, so I don't want friendship way longer. With me today, tomorrow I'll be stronger.
Time out with TA. It's the variety comedy show everyone is talking about. Catch your favorite celebrities on Wine with TA. It's refreshing, revealing, and ridiculously hilarious.
Stay with me, dear, with me, cause you love me, I will be your...
Time out with TA.
The new month of the new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Get the most current updates and business around the globe on The Money Show.
If you look at Nigeria and our people, a lot of people actually plan for the year from January up to December.
Be light, and the world was illuminated. He spoke through his prophets. Believe the word of God, and ye shall be established. Believe his prophets, and you shall prosper. We still have the prophets. Here comes another moment of prophetic declarations, the word from the divine throne. Destiny encounter. Be blessed as you walk.
It's a beautiful day, a day of glory, and another moment to encounter the Almighty.
Welcome to Destiny Encounter. I am Pastor Peter.
We have more in part 1 of Turning Point's exclusive report, Behind the Mask.
So many girls commit suicide in this trade because of their loneliness, their emptiness.
But come rain or shine, you'll find prostitutes on sidewalks.
Hello and welcome to Turning Point. Hello and welcome to the QB Springer Show, sponsored by Rapid Cargo, the show that enables you to be your brand. Then we will view your elevator pitch online, and the best one chosen each week is shortlisted to win £100 every month.
Motivating.
Let's find one person I would like to
Inspiring.
Honestly, you look like you're really enjoying it. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I write, and I write poetry. I used to write poetry.
And sensational.
Why do men cheat?
Celebrities and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Moments with Mo. Inspiring Africa.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties. A thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
Your daughter, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid.
Oh, well.
I will do everything. Nga megi no nenyi buleze. Eze na chiora.
Hello, man.
What's carrying? Yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz. Like,
Come. You be like say hungry, never why are you rich, Abi?
You know nothing about football, so there's no point asking.
Organize your cup and not your body. This one not the couple.
Oh, well, see, baby. It's not my money.
Between three nurses and a doctor, find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing in such a noble profession where so much coffee is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who has a pilot just gone into preventative her temperature.
No plan to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. It's not heartless.
Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman?
The only problem I have is with people making silly and grave mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
A jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects.
Blessing time is over.
Any of problem.
If my husband comes and say, make her no work, I go quickly sign.
budgeting, questions such as, do we need an NNPC in the first place, must be asked. In my view, we don't.
He is the field officer. He has the responsibility to ensure all operations regarding arrest and all that is conducted in the usual manner.
Engaging emerging topical issues in the polity.
The mere fact that we pay for 24 million liters of petrol on a daily basis, which is not is shocking. And I think now people should be resigning their appointment.
It's supposed to be a business, but it has become another arm of government, and it's also suffering from the malaise that have bedeviled government in Nigeria.
We want a good Nigeria first.
People that are benefiting at the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Still with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kakaki,
the African voice.
Now listen. The law is now beyond argument that the effect of the nullification of a thing, not necessarily an election, the effect of nullification of a thing is to completely wipe out, obliterate, remove, undo, erase, or render it ineffective.
Why must Nigerians pay the crime that has been perpetrated by this about?
The Busy Latino Show, BOS International.
I think the congregation tonight should be a period for celebration of the incoming, the end of the legal year, the beginning of the legal year. There is a period also for sober reflection.
We have signed into law several legislations whose implementation will help us provide the service delivery that you expect of us and raise the standard of life.
The Busy Latino Show, BOS International.
I'll give you all the finest things in life. You are the angel of my life, the love of my life. I love my baby, that's my baby. I will treat my baby right.
Words all over the world have made the Busy Latino Show, BOS International, the first choice in their TV dials every week. The Busy Latino Show, BOS International.
New business and surprising initiatives, from the creative joint venture to the smart businessman just around the corner. It's good news from Africa about chances and possibilities. First, do you believe in a wonder stove? We found one in Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone. We'll see how this invention benefits the environment.
At least I'm 500 years old. I don't boil water. I cook the snack. I see them from there. I will even warm water now for wash or any other to keep in on a fire. We will see warm.
Then we go to Nollywood, at the end from Nigeria. It's one of the biggest movie industries in the world. Still, money is needed. Who wants to invest a little and maybe earn a lot?
Well, the Nigerian movie industry is fantastic. We are growing every day. And I know very soon we're going to give Hollywood a run for the money.
We'll do some shopping too, online. And although that might sound a bit ordinary, in Ghana it's not. Afro Chic is trying to convince women to buy their clothes through the internet.
The other thing is that people are used to looking at the clothes, feeling it, wearing it, twirling around in it before they buy it. And if you have an online shop, they don't get to do that. But then, of course, they have the convenience of just sitting in their house and clicking, and then having you deliver it. So we have to educate people to use that.
Our last stop is Algeria, the Saharan country with, of course, an abundance of sun. There's a plan for an enormous solar energy network. A company is already manufacturing the panels needed.
Desertec est un projet très ambitieux, c'est un projet de l'avenir. C'est à peu près ce qui a été fait pour la Lune.
Back to Sierra Leone, to Freetown, where the Njai Wonder Stove caught our attention. It sounds a bit like one of those great bargains you can purchase on shopping channels, but there is more to this than meets the eye.
In Sierra Leone, many people use charcoal stoves to prepare their meals. 19 years ago, Mr. Njai brought to the market a fuel-efficient stove.
Njai first learned about efficient ovens in Kenya. He brought the idea back to Sierra Leone. After a lot of research, he developed the Wonder Stove, and in the process named it after himself.
I have done a lot of research and have come up with ways of treating the clay and adding certain ingredients which are my own trademark, not only as an instrument to help deforestation because you burn less coal, but to help women in the kitchen, smokeless environment and efficient cooking, but also the idea of making money out of it was attractive to me.
Who is Mr. Njai? He was born in Cambia, in the northern part of Sierra Leone. When he was only 17, he went to the United States to study. He got a degree in town planning. He has been a town planning officer for over 16 years before searching for new businesses and opportunities. The Wonder Stove is a success, although there are a lot of forgeries on the market. Mr. Njai filed his patent in 2003.
The patent is not being properly enforced. Many people have come into producing similar products, but not of the quality which is of international best practice.
Njai is confident that customers will eventually opt for the original product.
People still believe in the Wonder Stove.
Like this now 500 years old, I don't boil water. I cook the snack, I see them from there. I will even warm water now for wash or any other to keep in a fire. We will feel warm.
Now we want to know, what is the secret to the Wonder Stove? We try to find out first from Mr. Njai himself.
Tell Amole, yield to any questions. We pursue the formula. That's our trade secret.
We won't give up that easily. Let's take a look at the workshop where 6 people are working here on the production of the Wonder Stove. They make 40 stoves a month in all sizes. They are available everywhere in Freetown.
So, I've got my Wonder Stove, and I'm going to save my charcoal. I'm going to reduce the time my wife spends in the kitchen. I'm going to have a guaranteed source of cooking for at least the next 4 or 5 years.
Coming up later, a challenging attempt to run a fashion workshop in Ghana. Now we find ourselves in the middle of the Nigerian film industry in Lagos. It's nicknamed Nollywood, the Nigerian Hollywood. This mega film industry in itself is not new. It's about the new investment possibilities.
Today we tell you about Nollywood, the booming film industry that's producing hundreds of new films every year.
If you want to talk about Nollywood, they are trying, because most of the films tend to be an eye-opener. You open our eyes to things that are happening.
It might surprise you. Nollywood is bigger than Hollywood. If you count the number of films, Hollywood produces about 500 big movies a year, whereas Nollywood produces around 900 movies. Meet Funke Akindele. She's an actress, scriptwriter and producer. She produced 10 films on her own. And, by the way, in most of those movies, she herself plays the leading role.
Well, the Nigerian movie industry is fantastic. We are growing every day. Some years back, I'm sure it wasn't this good, but we give God the glory. They're working harder, and I know very soon we're going to give Hollywood a run for the money.
Nollywood only shoots movies with a video camera, which is a lot cheaper. The budget for a regular movie is around $15,000. The number of actual filming days is around, let's say, 15. On top of that, there are no film studios. The recording is being done all over Nigeria in hotels, homes and offices. You often can see companies who rented out their office space in the credits of a movie.
I think that the challenges are obviously funding and then the lack of the necessary infrastructure. I don't think you could make a film without electricity. And in other words, you have to become some kind of government on your own, because you have to provide your own electricity, you have to provide your own water, and then you are lucky if you don't have shortage of petrol, and gas.
Although the resources are extremely restricted, these movies are being made because the internal market alone is already huge. Nigeria has a population of 150 million people. A regular movie gets 50,000 copies. Saeed Ayindun, a distributor and investor, releases around 15,000 copies of his movies on the market per month. Currently, he's looking for foreign investors.
Yeah, we'll be very glad to have a partner, because the business we are doing, we really want to promote our culture, and we want it to surpass the Africa, not even only Africa or within Nigeria. So we were very much willing to partner with whatever investors that are coming in.
They won't need millions. There's a low investment barrier, and the market will still grow.
The challenge that Nollywood has is to win new audiences at home, and then be of enough good quality and standard to break into, the real market outside of Nigeria.
Every dollar counts. Literally, that's the price you normally pay for a movie here. You can buy them everywhere, on the streets and in the shops. Nigeria has hardly any theaters, so everyone is watching at home or at a friend's place.
In a month I can get up to 15, 20, and approximately I spend about 5,000 to 6,000 for films alone, because I'm a film freak.
With a population of 150 million in Nigeria, there is a big market for the Nollywood film industry.
Coming up, solar panels in the Algerian desert. Let's get to Ghana now. Here, the use of internet has been quite limited so far. Only 5% of the population has got easy access to the web. If we would compare that, for instance, with a country like the Netherlands, one of the best connected countries in the world, it's nothing. Close to 90% of the Dutch have their own internet access. So in Ghana, there's a well to be won. Still, two women in Accra established an online fashion shop, Afro Chic, designed for the African woman. What are their ideas and hopes?
Currently, not many people in Ghana can afford internet connection at home. However, in the near future, big undersea cables will arrive in Ghana, which will eventually result in faster and cheaper internet connection. It is expected to give a major boost to the local IT industry.
AfroChic is one step ahead of the future, although they do take a risk with their company. Although internet access is not widespread here, the founders are counting on a forthcoming web revolution.
I think I look at it sort of like America before the dot-com bubble. You know, when people began discovering the power of the internet, and then people had all sorts of ideas of things you could do on the internet. All kinds of businesses sprang up around the internet.
Now, Vodafone is the only company that uses optical fiber. However, this year, they will lose this monopoly as the two new cables are owned by other telecom companies. It is expected that internet usage is going to be 90% cheaper. Praveen Sadalaj of Busy Internet says a bright future lies ahead. His company was the first to offer internet connection in Ghana. He also runs one of the biggest internet cafes in Africa.
Definitely it will become more accessible, more affordable to the masses. People would like to go more on the internet because the price point has come down. For the same price what they spend today, they will be able to be online for a much longer time, so they can do their businesses without constraints. You see, I mean, the definition will change from internet just for access to internet without constraints, where people will not hesitate, if I can use that word, to go online.
To go on a shopping spree, is Ghana ready for that?
Yeah, the other thing is that people are used to looking at the clothes, feeling it, wearing it, twirling around in it before they buy it. And if you have an online shop, they don't get to do that. But then, of course, they have the convenience of just sitting in their house and clicking, and then having you deliver it. So we have to educate people to use that.
IT company Explainer DC now pays $1,000 a month for a moderate broadband connection. This high price is a huge barrier for everyone, according to the Dutch CEO. If the internet gets cheaper, the market will flourish even more.
All those additional users that will be on the internet will require online services, such as e-commerce websites, online banking, IPTV, voice over IP, social media. We hope to be building all those applications and hosting them. We're running about 10 years behind Europe in the internet. So to some extent it's like having a crystal ball on your desk. We know exactly what is going to happen. We just don't know exactly when.
Good news is that we have other service providers or other landing stations coming into the Ghanaian market. Like we have Glow One and Main One, which have landed apparently.
And I think we want to go very far with this. We don't want to be this, corner store thing we don't want to be a small shop. We want to see global. Yeah, we want to see AfroChic in the UK. We want to see AfroChic in Zambia. We want to see AfroChic in Hong Kong. And I think that to have that kind of audacity and to be able to achieve that, you have to do a lot of things that people haven't done.
Our final destination, hot and sunny Algeria.